Hello and welcome to Painting with Richelle. This week our lesson is going to center around a painting called Two Girls Reading by Pablo Picasso. Now let's begin. So before we start painting, we always want to make sure we have our tools on hand. So real quick, let's just make sure you guys have grabbed your paints. So go look for your paints. Some paint brushes, the surface on which you're going to be painting, and some scrap paper in case you want to test out colors beforehand. A cup of water to clean your brushes with, paper towel to dry your brushes off with, and then your paint palette or a paper plate to go ahead and mix your colors on. And while we're at that, don't forget to get yourself something to drink while you're painting as well. You want to stay hydrated. And if you happen to mix up your cups with your paint water and your actual drinking water, don't worry about it. It might taste bad, but this paint is non-toxic. So when you are painting from a already created piece, the first thing we should do is take a look at our reference. Today, as you're painting Two Girls Reading by Pablo Picasso, you can see pretty quickly here that there are some very distinct and easy shapes and colors that we can make out. One thing I want to point out is that paintings do tend to have focal points. In this piece, it's pretty easy to spot. It's like kind of in this central area on our left reader's face. A mix of the white and this blue that we don't really get too much elsewhere in the painting is what kind of draws in your eye. But this blue, as you notice, does kind of lead your gaze throughout the painting and then back up again, which is usually what you will find in a lot of paintings, that your eye will naturally want to travel over the image, and these focal colors really help with that. Another thing I want to talk about with this painting is that Pablo Picasso is known for his style of cubism, which is what we were looking at right here. Not only is this a style he painted with, it's actually a style he himself was credited with co-founding. So you're going to notice a few things I've done differently from the last little section of this video. Instead of the paper being laid landscape-wise, I have flipped it into more of a portrait style. I turned it that way because it matches the painting better. The painting is longer than it is wide. Secondly, you'll notice my nails are painted because this is happening on a different day. Alright, so the first step is actually going to be covering your paper. You'll notice I have a little border on mine. You don't need to have that on yours. That's just a habit I have from junior high, I believe was where it started. So don't worry about that. But yes, now since we have to cover most of the paper here, we're going to take some yellow because that is the dominant color of the background. It's more of a mustardy yellow though. So I'm going to do yellow with just the tiniest bit of brown and maybe a splash of green to try and match that color he's got going on in there. Now brown is a much stronger color than yellow, so we really don't want much. And remember, we can always add more. It's harder to take away. I'll probably need more than that one drop, but as I just said, it's always easier. Oops. You also want to make sure you shake your paints before using them, because sometimes they do separate. You get this kind of oily, well, it's not oil because acrylic paint isn't oil-based, but you get this separation in the paint, and it's not very nice to use when you do that. For the background, you're probably going to want to use one of the bigger brushes. Alright, and let's just mix this together, see what we end up with. Alright, so all I did to get this color, I shouldn't say all I did, it took a bit of a process, was I put down yellow, some brown paint, and then a splash of green and a splash of red. It might take you a while to get a color similar to this. Again, if you're not that experienced with painting, it can definitely take some time to get used to, especially matching a color from something that's already been created. And this isn't exact, and if you don't get exact, that's fine. Just get it as close as you possibly can. Remember, this is a recreation. And it's art. It's a recreation of art, and art often isn't exactly perfect. All right. So when we start to paint the paper here, we're going to cover most of it, but I'm going to try to leave a kind of blocked out bit where our blue lady is, just because it's a bit harder to paint that nice pale blue and white over this kind of mustardy color. Most because I don't have time really to let the paint dry in between coats. So if you have time to let it dry, you can go ahead and cover the whole thing. And because I have borders, I'm obviously going to have to be a little more careful on my edges. If you don't have borders, don't worry about it. Just go ham. I mean, even with the borders, I don't really need to worry about them being perfectly clean. Just sort of a guideline. One thing you do want to consider as well, you did notice I am going to be painting this way. Your final strokes always want to be in the same direction, unless you're going for that kind of patchwork look. In this case, you can see it looks like Picasso's paint strokes went up and down. Watch me immediately forget I was going to leave a space for that lady's face. Another thing you can always do is if you're finding that your color is running low, you can use a tiny splash of water on your paintbrush as you paint to kind of help stretch that paint a little further. I can actually demonstrate that right here. There. You just get a little water on your paintbrush and essentially just, gets the paint flowing again. Makes it wetter. It will thin it out, so you want to be careful. Especially if you did like me and you painted the one direction and then switched halfway through, which I highly recommend you don't do because then you have to spend a lot of time covering it up. So yeah, you can see how much thinner the paint got with the addition of water. It might work to smooth out some areas, but again, it's only if you really need it should you be doing that. Another interesting lesson with art is that while there are some rules and some ideas on how you should be doing stuff, and you should definitely start with teaching yourself the basics and following instructions, the whole purpose of art is self-expression, which means a lot of the rules can be kind of broken and experimented with. Now, breaking the rules and experimenting with might open you up to some criticism from some art connoisseurs, but it's your work, your emotion, your feeling, your creation. So you do what matters to you. So I think her face is like right in this area. Let me just block that bit out. I should have probably left a little more. Let's see if I can thin out this little patch here. This is also why I did tape down the corners of my painting. You guys will be using a pad of paper, so you shouldn't need to tape down your, so you shouldn't need to tape down your corners. But for me, as it's just a single sheet here, my page is starting to curl up a bit because of the water and the wet paint. So if you ever experience that problem, you can use just a little bit of tape on your corners. Painter's tape obviously works a lot better than masking tape, which is what I have used here, as it will be less likely to tear or damage the paper. But you work with what you got and just be super careful. Pew, 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 pew. Well, I went over my border there. Let's just take some more water here and we'll spread this out a bit. Yeah. And then if you just want to make sure you go over and spread it out, you got it all as evenly as you want it. You'll notice I have some spots here that definitely can use some more color. Let's get right there. And this top corner. Okay, I'm gonna let that dry for a bit on my end. I may need to come back and do some touch-ups. You may need to do the same as well. Let it dry for a bit before you continue. I say as I keep pestering the paper. There is such a thing as overworking your paper, which is something you have to be very careful of because it's very easy to do. Alright, so you notice it might look a tiny bit different from when you guys were here than a few seconds ago. All I did was I let it dry for only a few minutes. It wasn't very long. And then I came back and I just added another little coat to try and even it out a bit. I mean, you will notice in Picasso's painting as well, the background is not a perfect solid color. I actually don't know the paints Picasso used. I'm pretty sure though it would be oil-based for the time. Which is different than the paints we are using now. Ours is water-based, not oil-based. So the methods of painting are a bit different. This does not mean we can't recreate it. It just means that, you know, there will be some differences. Okay. So from here, let's start to block in some of our shapes, hey? So the most obvious one I think we should deal with is going to be the face. So I'm going to grab one of our smaller brushes here. And we are going to try to make this blue color. I forgot my blue, hold on. So we're going to grab our blue color. We're going to grab our little dude here. Try not to set it onto your piece of work. Put some blue. Boop. And it's kind of, it definitely has a bit of a green in there. So a tiny bit of green. Come on, green, just a little bit. Oh, yeah, there we go. And then we definitely need to lighten that up. So some white. going to mix, 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 mix. So I'll probably speed through this like I did last time. We need it a little darker, so I'm gonna put a little more green in this actually. Just a dab. Come on. My green is much thicker than I think the other paints I've got. It doesn't want to come out. Okay. I think that's good. So now what we're going to do here is we're going to go back to our source material. Notice I've made little paint marks all over it. And we're going to look at it and see roughly like the distances we have to measure out our face. Yeah, so for example, mine is definitely too low here. So I'm going to have to paint over some of this yellow, which I didn't want to do. But it happens. Alright, so I've got this kind of like very oval bottom part of her face, and it goes into a very flat top. It splits up, and I'm gonna have to put some white down to cover up the other half. Alright, and don't want to forget the nose, which comes out like this, and then goes up. It's a little further. There we go. So like the yellow before, I may need to let this dry a bit to make sure I can cover it up properly. There we go. That feels a bit better. Definitely notice the top of her head is a lot wider than the chin area. Alright, and the next part of the blue is we've got her hand that kind of comes out. So it comes out like this. I guess it's more of her arm there, not her hand. Arm and hand. Now remember, we do have a bit of white that's kind of coming here, so it's going to be like a semicircle. Like that. You'll see my yellow is definitely peeking through here, so we want to make sure we cover that up. And then the next blue we've got, oh, I just want to thicken that up there a bit. And pull this down just a hair more. Yeah, the next bit of blue we got is the other arm, which is down over here. It does appear to be at a very slight angle. So we're going to go right about here. So she's got a finger that kind of comes up like this, a little triangle. And then from there it goes out a little more like this. And down. It's this kind of interesting shape. Very interesting take on hands Picasso had here. I don't blame him though, hands are one of my least favorite things to draw. And again, like before, I need to let my paint dry a bit before I carry on, so let me just finish this shape and then I will be back. Alright, so I let it dry a bit. I added a little more to some of the parts, but I'm still letting this bit dry. And you'll notice that I did sort of add this little circle over here. I forgot to do that on camera, and I should have waited till I was back on camera, but I started correcting and forgot I was supposed to be recording. So we're just gonna touch that up a bit. Yeah, make sure that looks like a nice semicircle there. Clean your brush. And we're gonna do the first layer of white here as well to cover up that lovely little patch that I did not leave blank. Pretty straightforward, we're just putting white. No color mixing. So here, obviously, we have to be a little more careful because we are getting right up close to different parts. We don't want to cover too much of the wrong stuff. Thankfully, Picasso does have that black border on his work that we will be adding after, which will kind of touch up a lot of these details. Pull that up under the nose. Boop. Boop. There we go. And then a nice little pull down. There we go. So the white will probably require a few coats of paint to completely cover up. That's just simply how white is, being such a light color. Or rather, it's not really a color, it's more of a shade, a tone. There we go. Alright, I'm also going to work on this white triangle that's kind of jutting out here. I'm actually not entirely sure what this white bit here is in the painting. I've been looking at it for a while and I'm not sure. This little triangle of white. Is she holding something that we can't quite make out? Possibly, I guess. Okay, so we had a bit of a technical hiccup here. As you can see, I made it quite far before I realized I was no longer recording. Oops, sorry, my hand is shaking. So let me just give you a quick view of what you've missed. So after I finished the white triangle here, what I ended up doing was I took that white that was on our plate and I added just like a end of a needle size worth of black. So just like the tiniest bit of black to make this gray. I painted the rectangle here, and then over here I did this gray little triangle shape here, and then I added a tiny bit more black and I did the newspaper. The newspaper was actually two shapes. It was this triangle here. Actually, let me use the end of a brush so my finger's not in the way. So it was a triangle like this. That's what I did for the first shape, and then the other shape was just this like long weird rectangle shape, and then I used a brush just to carefully get in between the fingers. Boop, boop, boop. Then I mixed this a green, which turned out to be a green, a bit of yellow, and a lot of brown. And I did the face shape, which is a slightly skewed off diamond, with remembering to leave a little bit of space because we still have to do the hair up here. Then this like neck area. And I started on the hand, and that was when I realized that my recording wasn't going through anymore. And so that's what we missed for those shapes so far. Okay. Just get back into it here. So I am going to watch the time so I make sure I don't end up missing bits, because that was extremely unfortunate earlier. So I'm going to go for about 10 minutes and I'll check to make sure I don't run over. So let's go. Alright, so the next part here, we still have one more green bit to do. Let me just do that. Is going to be our arm. So probably the easiest shape to start off with is that there's a very obvious triangle right here. Boop, like that. And then it goes into her fingers. Just like that. And we fill it in, as we've done before. So with this green, it definitely needs a few coats. I've had to do probably 3 or 4 on this guy up here, so keep that in mind as you're painting, that if it's not thick enough, it's fine, we can go over it again after. go. So like I said, we'll come back over this green later. But for now, we're going to go into a red. Now the red on here is actually quite bright. So what I'm thinking is that we may just end up, I'm just gonna put it on the yellow. Only just slightly altering this. Maybe just a touch, just an absolute touch of yellow. Because it's a bright red, so I don't want to dilute it too much, but I don't want it straight from the bottle either. And I don't want to make it orange, which is a very real possibility when adding yellow to red. So yeah, we just made a very slight change to that red. It's not a huge difference, but it is there. Okay, and now the red has quite a bit to it. Again, this is a very strong color, so you want to be careful. We're going to go over here to this little corner. We're going to pull it down. Like that. And then starting here, we've got a circle shape, so you can kind of press and just sort of twist your brush to get that kind of circle right there. So you just press down and you just sort of spin your brush. I'm just making it a bit bigger here because I want my circle to be more distinct. And you're just trusting the edge of your brush. There we go. And then from there, we've got this arm shape, which actually kind of comes out from here and goes down. I almost touched the green. And it's a lot of filling in for this red before we do anything else. So let's just line our stuff before we start filling in. Okay, we'll go in another little section here. So yeah, we're just lining everything in red. well, no, I'm going to bring this out actually a bit more because our body basically just skims the edge of this painting. All right. Even these simplified hands are causing quite the issue. So it looks like I'm going to need to come back with a green there for that corner. And we're just painting the tiniest of triangles. So you want to carefully do that at the corner of your brush. If you find you're a little shaky, you can try to use your other hand to help stabilize yourself. One thing you definitely need to do when you're painting like this is like, you're still painting with confidence. You're still trusting yourself to do this, right? The more hesitation you make, the more stunted everything will look. See, as I stick my finger into green paint. Sort of like once you've committed, you have to follow through. Sorry, I'm just gonna fix this down here a bit more. Okay. And again, remember our edges will be cleaned up a bit with that black line we're gonna do, which will be an interesting experiment in and of itself. Boop, boop, boop. Just notice you need to pull this up a bit more. You want to make sure you get right up in there. Another thing you're probably noticing is as we paint more and more, covering layers and stuff, our other paint isn't soaking into the paper. So it will probably take a little longer to dry between layers as we add more and more. Alright, and you can pause the video here and just work on filling in your reds, adding layers until it's the desired thickness for you. I'm going to have to let mine dry, I believe, here, and then finish it off. because I'm just sort of scraping the underlayer right now. So I'll see you in a bit. Okie dokie. Next part is going to be yellow. So put yellow down and some white into this yellow because it is quite, that's not the right white. Boop. All right, let's use this brush. Mix, 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 mix. So you can see, just put a little bit of white in there. I'm not changing the color too much, just a tiny bit. Same with, like how I did the red essentially, just slightly altering it. Oops. Careful not to catch too much of the other colors in it like I just did. Thankfully it wasn't that much, so I can work through it. Yellow is actually a lot more of a simple shape here. Essentially just go from here down to here. Pretty straightforward. We do actually have to come all the way up in here though. Like that. And follow the neckline down. Oop. So yellow is very similar to white in that we're probably going to need quite a few coats to completely cover underneath here. Thankfully we do just have a kind of yellowish base under here, so it won't be too difficult. So I'm just filling this in, and then as normal, we'll let it dry and paint over again. But once I get this filled in and sort of evened out a bit more, we're gonna go straight into the hair. Okay. So all the spots where this yellow goes is currently filled in. I'm just smoothing this out. Smooth, smooth, smooth. Smooth as I can get it. Paint, paint, paint. Nice and easy. And there we go. Alright, so let's let that yellow dry. While we let that yellow dry, we are going to work on our hair. The hair looks like it's actually kind of a purplish tint in there, but not much of one. So, brown, drop of red. Come on, red. Alright, there. And the tiniest hint of blue. Yeah. And mix, 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 mix. Oh, my gray was still wet underneath. Again, if you want to clean your palette or you grab a different paper plate in between, feel free to do so. You don't have to be like me and messy. All right, easy enough. We've just got this kind of circle shape right in here. What was that? Ah, this little blue chunk. Go away. Whoops, I'll have to clean that up. I'm surprised at how thin my brown paint is. And then we have a much lower circle that comes around on this end. It does form a bit of a triangle in here. Just gonna bring that up a bit more. Boop. All right, you guys know the drill. Let it dry, work on something else. Into that it goes. The next hair color we've got is a sort of grayish purple. So we are going to do a purple, no, we're gonna do gray first. And then just add, no, I was right, we are gonna do the purple first. So take a bit of the blue. Again, we don't need very much of the color, so we do not want much, just little drops. Come on. Yeah. Make our purple. Okay, I need more blue. I put way too much red. Not starting to be too much blue. Oh, the choice of mixing colors. Actually, that might work. That's the color I've got right now. Now I'm gonna add some white. To lighten it up. And look at that. It's kind of very soft grayish, purplish blue. It's definitely a purple, but it does lean a little more into the blue than it does the red spectrum of purple. Alrighty, so we can see that it goes into another triangle shape, so let's do that. Boop. And it comes up from there. Did I go a bit too high there? Maybe. Just give it more shape. A little more curve there than I meant to, but it'll be fine. Follow the blue face and like that. It's interesting to me, it feels like this color dries faster than some of the others. It also seems to cover a bit more densely. I wonder if those two things are related. Are we still filming? We are still filming. Just want to pull it in a bit more into here. Okay. Well, we definitely have all of our colors blocked in at this point in time. All we have to do now is make sure that we've got them filled in to our liking. I don't think I need to mess around with this color too much more. Stick that in. Let's get this brown going. Actually, let's go back to the yellow first because that's been drying longer. Start getting a nice coat in. So one of the reasons I chose Picasso for the very, very first painting is because, I mean, it is a quite, in terms of concept, a simple painting. It's shapes and colors. We don't got much for gradients or shading going on here, and we can get some basic color manipulation down. Another reason I felt it was a good way to start off is actually because Picasso started painting himself when he was 7 years old. And when he was starting to paint at 7 years old, his parents were already noticing some talent there. His father was classically trained in painting and would eventually be a professor of painting himself. So Picasso definitely did come from a background of people where he was exposed to creating art from a young age, but I felt that this did indicate that it doesn't really matter how young you are. If you have a passion for painting and a willingness to learn and study it, or art in general, you can start at any age and display surprising ability even from surprisingly young ages. When we first designed this program, I was a little hesitant to start it at ages 6 and up because I wasn't sure how interested 6-year-olds would be in painting, but after reading about Picasso, I kind of warmed up to the idea. I felt as if he could be a good role model in that regard. Granted, not everybody is as naturally talented or dedicated as Picasso was. There's actually a quote that Picasso tells recounting his mother's speaking to him. And she knew from a young age that Picasso was going to be excellent in whatever kind of career path he chose. And the quote was, I knew if you were a soldier, you would become a general. I knew if you were to follow the path of a monk, you would become the Pope. And then Picasso adds on at the end, instead I became a painter who became Picasso. Just sort of interesting to think of. Well, let's let that dry again and go back to our brown. You also may have noticed I'm going to have to clean up my green a bit on this guy. How is it that my brown's going to need the most coats? Did I maybe grab the wrong paint? That is entirely possible. So I may finish the brown off screen later. We will see what happens here. Let's fix up the green. Oh, that was supposed to be my brown paintbrush. I'll use you instead. Also, when you are cleaning your brush, I know it's a little bit late to talking about, try not to smush the bristles too much or you will bend them out of shape. You just kind of want to swirl it around, and then when you're drying it, you lay it flat in your paper towel and you just press it over and sort of sponge it off. All right, fixing up my green. There's a spot right there I wanted to get. And a spot right in here. I should just pull that out now. Pull that out now. Looks like I need to sort of fix up its hairline too. Alright, and we'll just give that a quick clean. And we'll finish up some dabs of red. And then we get to the scary part. The scary part is black. Just nice, straight black. Yep. All right. Are we ready for black? I think I'm just going to use the same brush I was using for the red. So we're just going to grab our black. We're going to find a spot on our plate that we no longer need that color, or a dry spot. We're going to put some black down. We're going to choose the brush out of our tool set that we are the most comfortable with. Okay? You're just going to dab just the edges. And once you start to put the black down, you have to go with like one stroke of confidence, okay? So you might want to practice on your scrap paper first. And, well, you just gotta go with it. It might be a bit nerve-wracking. I don't blame you. I've done plenty of black outlines and putting straight black onto my paintings before, and I still get nervous. So, not much else to do but go for it. And again, if you're feeling unstable, you can try to stabilize yourself with the other hand. And if you make a mistake, it's fine. We are not Picasso. We don't have his years of experience. We're just artists, inspired, and trying to learn. So one thing we do notice here is that, actually let's do this outline of this arm. It comes down all the way to her hand. Alright, I'm going to swoop the face. Actually, hold on. I just want to thicken this up. I'm going to do a swoop for the face. So start up here and swoop. Okay, let me just make sure I'm still recording. Yep, still recording. And we come up with the swoop. And right there. I got the hair here. Got enough paint on my brush there. And the nose is also black. So we want to underline the nose. Oh. And we want to pull down from up here as well. Well, you see I just did a little boo-boo there as well. So it's gonna happen. No worries. Alright, now for the hair, it actually comes like this. So we're gonna do like that. this guy comes up and he starts to go on his own, but he stops short there. And then we get another line that comes all the way around. This lines up in here. That lines there. And any line you don't think is right, we can definitely go back over and correct after. I'm just trying to block it in right now so you can see what lines need to be where. I'm also going to insert you guys should have access to a little copy of the actual painting in the corner of the screen somewheres. So you guys always have that for reference as well. Especially on this part because we've got some lines kind of going everywhere here. All right, let's finish up the hair up here. I don't know if you've noticed as well, but I do kind of just go do the lines that I want to. I know you probably should follow them in a certain order, but I kind of just like to go with the lines I'm most comfortable with when doing a black outline. I want to feel it in the moment and follow that one. Partially because this is a bit nerve-wracking to do. Sort of a bit of a hiccup there. Oh well. Oh well. Embrace it and keep going. Bob Ross taught me a lot about accepting mistakes. He's another painter that a lot of people really should learn from. I know there are some artists out there kind of like scoff at landscape paintings as not really art. But again, I don't think anyone can really say what is art and what isn't art. It's such a personal thing. Alright, I'm gonna fix up this bit of the face here because it was too thin. Follow this down all the way to there. I want to make sure I'm still recording. I am. Now here's another interesting bit because it actually goes like that. Oh, we didn't do the table. Well, I'll do that after this. Now this black line does also extend it a bit further. And there's a hair in my paint. And remember to clean your black brush every once in a while because you will get some buildup that we need to handle as we go. So this one actually goes up a bit. And we're getting to this lovely circle bit. So, actually comes like this. Whoa. Okay, so I sort of messed up the black on that one. Again, it'll happen. There is some small chance that you'll be able to fix small mistakes as well after, once you've gotten your black lines in. We can go over in parts and attempt to correct it. Alright, and then we've got another sort of circular motion in here. And then this comes into a point here. Such an interesting way of like seeing the world. Okay, let's do this part. This come down and it meets right there. Do the thingies. I just want to fix up this little part in here. There we go. Right. Clean up those black lines. Okay, so the triangle for the book is a bit different here, in that we don't fully encase the page part. So we just go make into the triangle like this. Then we just do some lines out like that, and we just leave it open. Down into this area. And this will be interesting because we just close off all that. Okay, I did actually notice too there is like another line that goes boop. And the arm here. Alright, well, most of this is done. I am just gonna fix up some of the lines I don't quite like. Feel free to do the same. Look at your painting, make your own decisions. Feel free to do some small deviations if you want. At this point, you're more than welcome to. We're just recreating piece. We don't have to be exactly on point. Because to be honest, we won't ever be exactly on point. I do notice I have a spot I need to fill in that I missed from earlier. Also, we do have to still do the mouth and the eyes and the nose on her, so let's actually do the nose first here. She's got quite a pointy nose. And just a little mouth. I sort of marked it wrong there, goes right about there. And this eye goes over here. Mouth there, and then a little line for the lip. And we got one big eye. And I'm gonna try not to speak directly into the mic there, but we did that thing again where my camera decided to cut out. Good times, good times. So I just wanted to go over the last little bit here. We were just lining in everything in black. So as you can see, it's completed. I did the table, just brown. I just did the brown straight from the bottle. And then I signed it right there. You can see my signature. I used a pen for my signature, not the paint, because the paint's a little hard to get that fine of detail. But there we go. That is the completed art piece. Yeah, and that ends this little program for the day. So I'll see you in the next couple weeks for their next painting, which should be, let me just flip through these. Boop, boop, ba-doop, ba-doop. There it is. So we're going to paint Bavarian City by Vasily Kandinsky. All right, we'll see you then. Bye-bye.